DirecTV Stream brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. And there's no annual contract. Get your TV together at directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Hello and welcome into the So Rare Andrews podcast, brought to you by RotoWire and sponsored by So Rare. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdino on So Rare, joined as always by Andy Black, who you can find as Black on So Rare. Today we're talking about a topic that everybody loves to talk about, DNPs. But anyway, Andy, how's it going?
Great. How are you? How did this past game week go for you?
This past game week, let's see. It's now, what time is it? A little after 6 o'clock Eastern. On Tuesday. We got our rewards like 25 minutes ago. And I had a game week that I would have killed for like 3 months ago. And just the way that my So Rare experience has gone, I was slightly disappointed in my results. I ended up basically playing the tier 3 lottery. I had 2 or 3 lineups that were within like anywhere between 1 and like 20 points of getting tier 2s or tier 2s into tier 1s. And I had some DNPs, or at least guys who didn't start, that pushed me down. But I got the classic experience that a lot of people do, opening rewards. It's like, oh, I don't know who this guy is. Let me go check So Rare data to see if he's any good. And some of them were okay. And once again, my most excited experience was my common card.
Because you got Haaland or Mbappe or
Haaland.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I was going to ask you about is you got the wrong Timber brother. Did you open that reward and think that, you pulled the right one?
I definitely knew I didn't pull the right one. And the reason I know that is because I bought a super rare 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was last week, 2 weeks ago, from Sean, PSU fans too. I have a record of buying cards from him and the guys just being terrible immediately. Mm-hmm. And this super rare that I bought from him was a Utrecht midfielder named Joris van something or other. And he was immediately dropped after I bought him for Timber. So it was like, I knew who Timber was. I knew I didn't have the good one, but I also knew that he's a starter because I have a super rare of the guy he benched.
You're in a good situation now where you can use that rare until he gets benched, and then you can start playing the super rare. Or you get it confused and you play the wrong one, and then you get a DMP.
I mean, ideally, they both play. I think that would be a good situation, but I don't know. But he's good. And Perez, who's in chat, was like, hey, that's a good long-term hold. And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm so bad at that.
Are they twin brothers or are they just brothers?
I have no idea.
Okay.
In fact, I think I learned that they were brothers from you just now.
All right.
They're definitely brothers?
I think they're brothers.
No.
I mean, they look alike.
I didn't even look. Like, I just saw the name and I was like, oh, that's okay. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to get the good one because I wasn't in a star situation anywhere.
Fair enough.
How was your game week?
We're not going to talk about that.
Fair enough. But so we're supposed to talk about DNPs, and I don't know if people like when we agree on things or not. I feel like we tend to agree on a lot of things. We just like view So Rare similarly, and I think we might generally agree about this as well, but it seemed like it was a topic that either a lot of people are talking about or just the louder people are talking about. And so I heard it. And first off, do you think DNPs are a problem on So
Rare? Define problem, I guess. I mean, they're a problem when I get them and they ruin a lineup of mine, but no, not really. I think that they're actually good for the platform. And I know that there's a lot of people that would disagree with that, and that's fine. But I think that they're good because they're the one thing that gives an edge to the player that is going to work harder really grind it out and do their research and, just outwork everyone else. And there are people out there that try to outspend everyone else because they either don't want to or can't outwork everyone else. And that's the edge that our smaller budget players are always going to have over those big budget players. My opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the way that I've been thinking about it, I guess, is because I've had conversations in like a lot of different groups about what to do about it, if there's something to do about it. And I think the DNPs generally, I think the general thought is that they help lower budget players. And that doesn't mean low budget, but like lower.
Well, it doesn't help them when they get one because
Right,
then
right,
it
right, yes.
everything that they have for that week. Like they might play
Yes.
2 lineups, and if they get one, then maybe they're dead for the week.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that like there could be,
My counter argument to that is if you have one lineup, and you're a low budget player, you should know those players pretty intimately. And, if you get a DNP, it might just be extremely unlucky, but it also could have been just a big blunder.
Yeah, I think we might be giving too much credit's not really the word, but I think there's this thought that you can skill your way out of DNPs, and like you can't. Like there are players. Not everybody has Aaron Cresswell, all right?
Yeah, but there are guys that are like more important to their team, captains, maybe a CDM that just always plays. Those are the types of guys that, if you want to avoid DNPs, that they're going to be in the squad.
Yeah, I think the important thing is that like nobody's avoiding every DNP. And there's
a good counter to what I just said. Michael Bradley, what was that, 2 weeks ago? Totally unreported. I guess he had an injury or something, or because he wasn't even in the squad.
No.
And dude has played every game the last 2 years when he wasn't hurt. And not only started in all those games, and just randomly, I guess, wasn't even on the MLS injury report, and boom, DNP.
Yeah, the only difference there is that Michael Bradley tends to kill lineups even when he's in. So, like, I'm not sure it's all that different.
That's fair. That is totally
fair. So generally, I think the whole, like, you just got to work harder and some more skillful players, like, avoid DNPs. And I think there is some skill in avoiding DNPs. Like, we see plenty of so rare managers at every budget level, like starting guys who are suspended or who are questionable. And sometimes it's like you just don't have another option and you just have to start them, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think there's still plenty of mistakes all over the place with all types of managers, that there is skill in avoiding DNPs.
For sure.
There's no skill in avoiding all of them, though.
I think somebody showed me something this morning. It was one of the bigger accounts in the entire game. After this game week locked, already had, I think, 5 dead lineups or 5 lineups with key players that were DNPing. And it's just like, okay, that's one of the biggest galleries. And that's not even talking about galleries where we know they're just throwing darts at the board. Like, I don't think Karupu spends a ton of time on this. I don't think, who's the other one? Roxy. I don't think that he spends a ton of time on his lineups, but he slaps them together, looks at last 5 and puts them in there. Actually, I would love to find out what their process is for submitting lineups, because I'm just guessing. But I think that those are guys you definitely don't want to have subs or any kind of mechanism to avoid DNPs.
Yeah, I think ultimately the problem that I've had with talking about DNPs is that every suggestion that I've heard, and it's not like I've heard 100 of them, it basically comes down to 2 suggestions, and they both really negatively affect smaller galleries.
There is one suggestion that I think Mike kind of addresses in his question, where I think this is one of the ones that frustrates people that do the work, that put in all the time, do all their research. If the game week deadline were moved back to the old old lock time of, I think it was like 11 o'clock my time.
Yeah.
So I don't know what time that was. It was probably noon your time.
Yeah. 6
Over in Europe,
p.m.
it was 6
Paris,
p.m.
5
I
p.m.
guess.
to
Yeah.
London.
So if they could move it back to that time, you get all of the Friday press conferences, you get all the, I guess, Tuesday press conferences in, and you can kind of find out about team squads. I guess it would have been Monday, but you find out all that information and you can make decisions on that information. There's no worse feeling than submitting your lineup and then the next morning you find out your team had a press conference and they're not taking your captain, the player that you captained on the road game or whatever.
Well, we think of it as the next morning, but I mean, there are people in Europe who it's like, I set my lineup an hour ago, and now I'm dead.
Right. Yeah.
So the two solutions that keep getting thrown out are subs and rolling locks.
Yeah.
So subs, obviously, I've seen a whole mess of suggestions like you can have 5 subs and it's just 1 per position. You probably only need 4, I guess, because like the extra spot or whatever. And then the rolling locks, or I've seen also 1 sub, but then how do you do that if it's a different position and all this stuff?
For different scarcity.
Right. And then there's the rolling locks, which is just basically every player can be taken out of a lineup until their game starts. And so if you see the lineup an hour before kickoff and they're not in it, you can replace them with someone else. And that suggestion is one that I think would be really popular before it's implemented.
Yeah.
And I actually think smaller galleries would love it. And it would take them a little too long to realize that they're getting killed by the bigger galleries, specifically with that rule.
Yeah.
And so
you're talking about rolling locks.
Yeah.
I would hire someone. Flat out, I would, because I'm just just too busy on the weekends chasing my kids to soccer games and driving them around, and just like there would be no way I could get fix every single lineup and fix every single DNP and optimize everything, and there would be people working so hard, and I couldn't keep up. So I would either have to have someone do it for me or sell my gallery.
And that's actually kind of a different response because you have a gallery that could handle it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I have got tons of depth.
Right.
I would love it.
Yeah.
From the perspective of I've got the depth for it.
Right. You need the depth and an intern.
Yeah.
Basically. Are you allowed to use somebody else? I don't even know.
What's that?
Are you even allowed to have somebody else set your lineups? I don't know.
No, but I think that if they implemented that feature, they would have to put some kind of delegation into your account to where I could be delegate Sean to set my lineups for me because I'm away from my computer and he's not.
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest issue with that one, and it's basically an idea that has come from DFS, and because obviously Fantasy Premier League has subs, they don't do this rolling lock. There are some kind of season-long fantasy soccer games that have rolling locks, but you obviously, it's usually single league. So it's like, oh, I know when all the Premier League games are. But if you are literally needing guys in lineups all weekend, it's a killer. And the biggest difference that we saw with DFS is not that people were taking advantage of it for injury situations. I think that was the original thought. Everyone's like, oh, it'll be so much better because it was specifically this DNP situation where on an NBA slate, if it starts at 7:30 p.m. and then you find out at 10:30 p.m. that somebody's out and you're getting a 0 and you can't do anything about it. So we're going to let you change that player now. And there was this, so everyone's like, oh, that's great because I'm not going to have a 0. And it's oh, wait, now I have to be there at 10:30 to make sure that my guy is in.
Yeah.
And then there were those who I have this situation where now I can be a little more aggressive. If I'm, if I'm losing and I have to make up ground, I can pick a guy whose floor is lower, but his ceiling's a lot higher.
Right.
And we're going to see that in SoRare if this happens. If your lineup is struggling and you basically have one guy who's always good for 60, but never hits 70.
Yeah.
And there's another guy who is constantly in the 30s, but has 200s in his L40. You go with that guy because you're losing anyway, but at least I
Right.
can try to get
Might
this
as well
goal.
put that high upside guy in there and hope.
Exactly. And so that's even like beyond the whole, like when somebody's like, oh, Mbappe's out and this guy can just throw in Lewandowski because he's in a training lineup.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a little crazy that people would have cards that good in training lineups. And then I looked at some of the training lineups from this past weekend, and my God, some of the bigger galleries just have they have training lineups that are better than anything I could ever put together.
Yeah.
And I was like, never mind. I don't want these cards even possibly in play. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Perez, you said subs
like
with
this
score
idea from
reduction if
Perez.
used for me is the logical way to keep everyone happy. Already you're wrong because that doesn't keep me happy. It's an idea for sure. Like, I think that if you're going to do something like that, there would have to be like a penalty or whatever for using the sub, especially if they were like out of position. But yeah, it's such a tough one. I don't think that there's any scenario of subs that I would be for at all.
Yeah, I think the first one that jumped out at me was just like, you're now making people buy more cards.
Yeah.
You're like, now I need what, if we're going from SO5 to SO5 and 5 subs, or
would you start handcuffing your players?
Yeah, I mean, you could.
Yeah.
Absolutely do that.
Like whoever your backup forward is or whatever, you buy that guy just in case, your guy gets the flu and you can sub him in real quick. Although it's probably not the most effective way of, accomplishing things. It would definitely bail you out in some situations, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it just feels like it's going to be more bailout than strategy.
Yeah.
And I just don't think you design a part of the game to like help people get bailed out.
The one thing I can think of is I think everyone needs to invest in a nice box of tissues that has DNP written on it. The funny thing about those, this I have here is I've kind of like snuck this in, and I've had it on here, and I've had so many work calls where people like look back there and they're like, "Hey, what's DNP mean?" And I'm like, "Hey, don't go there."
Now you can just send them a link to this podcast.
Right.
It's perfect.
For sure.
Yeah, I think Mike brings up this good point, which I think we all overlook a little bit, but like subs just complicate the game.
Yeah.
And I think I've kind of said this on a number of things, but it usually comes down to like, expanding the scoring or expanding rosters. That the goal, SoRare's goal is very clear, and it's to have as many users as possible. Like they want 1 million users. And you don't easily get users by making your game more complicated. Like, as weird as it sounds, like the scoring matrix is like absurdly complicated. Maybe it's not even complicated. It's just like long. And the first time I tried to describe it to somebody, it made no sense. And I was like, let me like get back to what it actually does. But like fundamentally, it's like, hey, you need 5 cards and go play them. Yep. And that's it. And now it's like, hey, you need 5 cards. And maybe up to 5 subs. And if they do so, one of your players doesn't get it. And can you use the sub if the player doesn't play? But if he subs on, then he does, it's like, I think we did see, like I had a lineup this week, one of my D5 lineups where I had like 4 great scores. And then a guy was on the bench. And it was like, should I get a sub for that? Like, can I automatically do it? But like, if he plays,
yeah, if he comes on for 3 minutes, then and gets his score of 25, does that negate your sub? So now you're rooting, like you're sitting there, like, oh, do not come on. That's all you want. Like, do not come on the field. I want to use my sub. And then people are going to get mad that, oh, I didn't get to use my sub because the guy subbed on for 3 minutes and scored 24 points or whatever.
Or the other situation where like, no, I put my sub in, but he got a red card. And so I want the guy I had originally.
Go back the other way.
25.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
What do you think about this? When your player subs on and gets 25 points, do you think they should get 25 or 35?
I'm glad you brought this up. So this happened to me recently where one of my players didn't start but came on at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
And like the guy he replaced got 35 points and he got 25, but they played the same number of minutes.
I think it's a glitch in the scoring matrix that they only get 25 for subbing on. I think they should start with 35. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I don't know why. Like, I don't know why playing the first minute of the game gets you more points than playing the last minute.
Yeah, or they do away with the whole starting off at 25 or 35, and then you just get they do the math and they figure out how many points per minute you should get, and then they just give you the points per minute.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I kind of feel like there should be a reward for starting.
Yeah.
And
okay, that's fair.
So 35 to 25 just makes sense. But
okay.
But that one situation felt weird to me where I was like, my guy played just as many minutes and scored 10 fewer points.
Yeah.
You know, at least on that part.
I don't know. Quinny says it really, really well there. Best way to piss people off, try and make them all happy.
Yeah. So this Pierce was asking if we think DNPs basically become a retention issue. Like, will people walk away because of DNPs?
I don't think I've seen a single person walk away yet because of a DNP.
I think if you've gotten so many DNPs that you're walking away,
then you suck.
Then the skill gap worked. Yeah. And that's like harsh to say because I know people who have gotten killed with DNPs that are good at this and it's just like dumb luck. I think what makes it easier to brush that off, like for me to like flippantly say like, well, just whatever, is that you can play the guys next week. Doesn't cost you any more money.
Right.
You own the cards and we enter these free competitions, and that sucks. And that there are people who are like, I had a great team and this one DNP, and I get it. I really do. But like somebody else won because you didn't have, because you had a DNP, and another week somebody else big has a DNP. And so you get to go buy them. And I just feel like, not that it evens out, but yeah, I don't think DNPs will be like a big enough problem that enough people are like, I'm out of here.
I think DNPs almost keep people coming back. Like it's almost like golf. Like you go out and you hit, 10, 20, 30 bad shots or whatever, but you hit that one good shot, you get that one good lineup and it keeps you going. I almost feel like DNPs are just like that thing that just kind of keeps nagging at you and I don't know, keep you going.
I think that's a great point. Nailing it within 5 feet on the 18th. That keeps you coming back after you shoot 130.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think it's a problem that needs to be fixed. And I think that sounds, well, I don't know if it's a problem that doesn't need to be fixed, or I just don't think that there's a reasonable solution. And so they shouldn't change it. Maybe that's the way I'll put it.
I think that they can do things to like help the managers, and helping the managers would be changing the game week deadlines. I know that they have reasons for why the game week deadlines are the way that they are. Like, I think it involved like them having to work on the weekends or work in the evenings or something like that. And hey, I think we're big enough at this point where, and I've said this before, sorry team, you're going to have to work at night, or somebody's going to hire somebody that can work at night so that we can get a game week deadline that actually makes sense. Because the game week deadline right now makes very little sense.
Yeah. So it's my understanding that the reason was rewards, that they were doing rewards before, like later in the day, and they wanted to move it up.
Yeah.
I think the other one was that there were a lot of like, at least for us, Friday morning matches that were losing out on game weeks because they were ending one early and then having the deadline. But I kind of always thought that they were going to push the deadline back again once the European League started up, because there would be enough of people like, wait a minute, we need to have the press conferences.
Right.
It's November 2nd. They haven't moved it, but the Asian leagues are ending in like a month. And so I think it is just they don't want to be there on a Friday night.
Part of the problem too was like there were like weeks where like either double game weeks, or there were teams that were like falling in that weird. They had like a weird dead zone where the games weren't being scored.
Yes.
And it's like we're past that. Like you can have one game week butt right up against the other and not miss games. So I think that if they really want to do good and actually like start moving in the right direction on this, it's move the game week deadlines.
at least gives us a little more information. Like, I think the fact that we're all basically going in blind. I mean, there are some teams that do Thursday press conferences, but most of them do Friday, at least for the weekend matches. And so, I agree. I think they need to move it back. I love this idea from Mike. What about having to play X number of minutes to get 35 in the same way 60 minutes for a clean sheet?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Masaki,
I'll agree with that until my guy gets 59 minutes, and then I'll bring
that's important. Like we shouldn't be losing utility from players. So like when they do move the game week deadline, make sure that you're not creating situations where your players are in double game weeks. Or I think the big issue was they were in a window where like the game week was ending here and the next one was starting here, and there was like a gap of time that games were just not getting covered, and they can't do that. That's not right either.
Yeah. So the reason for the gap was that you could use your rewards immediately.
Yeah.
And obviously we can't do that now because we get the rewards after the next game week started. But I haven't heard enough people, and granted, I don't spend much time in the general Discord. So maybe it's there, but like, I haven't heard an uproar of like, I want my rewards to play the very next game week. And so we should go back to kind of these different start and end times, but I think that was the reason.
So, what are some things that you do to avoid DNPs when it comes to setting your lineups and when it comes to actually purchasing players and making decisions on who's going to be in your squad for the week?
So I don't buy anyone who doesn't always play.
Define always play.
Like 100% of the no, but like it's literally as close to 100%. Like if I look at the score chart on Story Data and I see like 3 DNPs, I'm like, whoa, that makes me nervous. And then I have
to do the research. Okay. Were you just hurt, or do you just get rotated a lot, or does your coach love to change the squad up?
Yeah, or sometimes it's international matches. I'm like, oh, okay, they don't play internationally, but they always play. Yeah, I think I just really try to avoid getting anyone who doesn't always play. And so that doesn't mean I don't have DNPs. Like I had a few this past weekend, or at least guys who didn't start. And I just kind of accept, but yeah, pretty much like anyone who is questionable to play, I don't play. Like there has to be like a manager quote that says like they're going to play.
Did you start Alfonso Davies this week?
Yeah, Davies was never a doubt.
Oh, come on.
Just because you didn't play him.
I read like 10 things saying that he might not start.
I thought he was fine.
And you got rewarded for it too.
Yep.
Frustrates me.
I'm not sure if I had a ton of guys actually to not play him. So that I'm like not a great example. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I had plenty of U23 guys this week. But yeah, Davies I thought was going to be fine.
Okay.
That's all.
I'm pretty much the same way where like the guys that I buy, I only want the guys that are like dead set. Like you said, I'll check to see if like they're rotated for whatever, or they don't play in international games, or if they just had an injury, COVID, whatever. But yeah, those the guys that like are like, I mean the thumbnail that you put out was Delegate, who started today, but he's rotated on that team pretty often and like puts up good scores when he does play, but like surprise will get you with DNPs and drives me nuts. Ended up selling him just because it was driving me so crazy. And like
I remember talking about that with you though, and you were like, I'm selling him. And I was like, why? And you're like, I just never know when he plays. And you're like, I was like, yeah, you're right. It's like a hindrance in your gallery because you're always tempted to play him.
You're tempted to play him, and you're spending so much work. Like I would spend so much time reading like Juventus blogs and other things and squad guesses, and it's like I could just like have a guy that always plays and move on from this, who probably costs less money than him, and I can bank a little bit of ETH and have a guy that always plays.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing better than reading like a translated Russian blog about Juventus and that guy sitting at home in St. Petersburg is like, I think Delic's going to play this week.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I'll play him.
Yeah.
That guy seems to know what he's talking about.
There was some good stuff. Jimmer was streaming a couple weeks ago or something, and he had an article pulled up that was just like you're talking about. It was like a Russian article, translated, broken English, hard to even read it. And he's like, oh, he's got that Portuguese guy starting. I'm playing him. I think he ended up playing too, which was funny.
I mean, yeah, guessing lineups. I come from a job that required, trying to figure out lineups, so it's difficult enough. But yeah, I don't know.
Were there certain leagues that were easier to predict, and certain leagues? And I know the answer to this is going to be yes, and probably the MLS is one of them. But certain leagues are really difficult to predict and guess.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think MLS might have been the toughest, which is nuts because we're RotoWire is based in the US. Yeah. And like we have all the media, but the media access for MLS just seems very limited. And so, and there are no official injury reports required. And so, there are plenty of instances where all of a sudden it's like the game starts on a Saturday and they're like, oh yeah, that guy got hurt on Tuesday. And it's like, well, why are we just hearing about this? I'm like,
and honestly, the only way to overcome some of those is there's some really good beat writers for specific teams that you can follow on Twitter. But then you end up following, I don't know, 20 beat writers if you can hunt them all down. Mm-hmm. And they're helpful. They obviously won't be able to give you everything, but what I've done is, at least for like key teams where I have like 5-6 guys from their team or something, then I'll be following that beat writer and I can kind of follow that news a little closer.
One of the things I saw a lot with some of the English ones is that they're not like blackouts, but they're basically blackouts. And so it was one of these that like the manager says like, oh, so-and-so was questionable, but yeah, we'll see if he can play. And you read that and you're just like, I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, what does that mean?
And then it turns out they don't play. And like the match recap is like, well, he hasn't trained in 2 weeks. And so it's not surprising. And it's like, that information is not allowed to be told until after the game. And like, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
But that's what it is.
One of the other things that I've done to avoid DNPs is I've completely avoided the Asian leagues because not my native language, really hard for me to find news. And I know that there's people out there that either have news or can support you and help. But I just am uncomfortable with that league. So it's like, I'm going to avoid it to help, and I'll spend a little bit more money to go elsewhere just because I'm uncomfortable, totally relying on someone else to give me information, which is funny because that's already what I'm doing is when I go to get MLS news or whatever, I'm relying on other people to get that news, but it's just, it's hard to rely on a single source for all of it.
I like how you say it's not your native language, as if you have you have a little Korean language,
Well,
knowledge.
I did learn a trick though. Again, from Jimmer.
From Jimmer's stream. Yeah.
He was copy and pasting the Korean characters into, I think it was Twitter or Google, and didn't realize that you could actually take those characters and just totally search news based on that. So he'd find the player's name in Korean and copy and paste that name into Twitter, and then translate and get news. And it was more news than I was impressed.
I was impressed, and I was also like, I'm not going to do this. I can't do this every week.
It is so fun to watch other people do their research and see the ways that they go about avoiding DNPs and just getting team news and stuff.
It's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day about how the lineup building process, watching somebody make lineups every week sounds really boring. And I'm riveted by it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what they say, nobody wants to hear about your fantasy football team.
Mm-hmm. And
it's true. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
But there I was last night watching Quinny make all his lineups. I'll do it on Thursday. And I'm just I don't know what it is because so on Jimmer's stream, I was watching Jimmer do it. We were talking about how I wanted Jimmer to make my lineups for me. And we're like, it's so different making lineups when you just don't know the gallery because you're just
100%.
Like, you're not used to researching these players or whatever. And yet when I'm watching somebody else make their lineup decisions, like I don't know their gallery.
Right.
When he's got a killer D3 lineup this week because of us, but
we'll take all the credit for that.
Yeah. I'm going to ask for I'll ask for a cut if when he gets first place in that one. But yeah, it's kind of like weird how that happens. But like, yeah, the research thing is, I just like, I'm curious how like other people figure out like how do you decide if you're going to play somebody who's questionable?
Shopify is the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. And I love it because Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources that were once reserved for big businesses. So upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. I don't talk about it a ton, but I have a fishing company. 5 years ago this month, my best friend Aaron and I started a bass fishing weight company called Woo Tungsten, because woo is the sound you make when you catch a giant bass. So we sell tungsten weights for bass fishing, and Shopify has made it so incredibly easy. They have all the tools and the resources that we need. No matter how big or small your business is, they just make it so effortless. And like mine, Shopify powers over 1.7 million businesses from first sale to full scale. And you can reach customers online and across social networks with their ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more. And you can gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting of conversion rates, profit margins, and beyond, which is something we use a ton. More than just a store, Shopify grows with you. Go to shopify.com/Blue Wire, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business today with Shopify. Go to shopify.com/Blue Wire right now. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Shopify.com/Blue Wire.
There's so many things to like consider when it comes to like building lineups, and like when you're going off somebody else's gallery, it's like I know mine. I know what players I know that I'm going to have a good U23 team, or I know that I'm going to have a good Champion Europe team, but I know I can't waste one of my Champion Europe players in U23 because I got to have them in that lineup. And all this, like, you know, it's like the meme of Charlie Day almost, where he's writing on the chalkboard. And but it's funny because like you go in and try to do someone else's, you're just completely lost.
You're
like,
lost.
Sure, you go and try to build the best team, and then you realize that you built the best team. Now you can't build a Champion Europe team at all, or you can't build a U23 team at all because you took all the good players and you stuck them in this one lineup. And maybe that's the best thing. I don't know. It might be. But because we've kind of talked about the quality versus quantity and lineups and all that. But man, it's fun to look at.
Yeah, I think I realized it when there was the Zora Cup, whatever it was called, on Sora Data, where it's like, take Zora's gallery, make an SO5 lineup, and we'll all compete. It's like, okay, but like in that situation, you're picking 5 cards.
Right, one lineup.
And now it's like, okay, go make all of his lineups. And I was like, I don't even know where to start because I don't know these like I don't know where you want to put certain players. And so, yeah, that was one of the things I was thinking about with Jimmers when Jimmer was like going through. So he's like making a lineup of mine, and I'm watching this and I'm like, I would never do this lineup, like absolutely never. But then it was like, should I be making this lineup? And that got me into thinking that one of the big kind of talking points in DFS is, does sport knowledge help? And there are a lot of people who play DFS, like let's say they play DFS, NBA.
Real quick, let me stop you.
Yeah.
What's sport knowledge?
Soccer. Oh,
okay,
any sport.
Like specific to the sport.
Yeah. Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay.
So like, does it help to know hockey
to
play DFS hockey?
Gotcha.
And there are plenty of people who know nothing about hockey and don't want to know anything about hockey or MMA or tennis or any of these, but they can be very good DFS players because they're like fundamental things of like, you're just looking at stats and like, this is how they work best together. And here's how you get the optimal lineup based on these projections.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that's how I should be making my Sorare lineups. Like maybe it's better to make
the big
somebody
difference
else's
in
because
Sorare is you got to go buy the guys.
Right.
So you kind of need that knowledge, or at least, I don't know, I guess you could maybe cover that gap a little bit with Sorare data and just finding the right top players or whatever. But I think that knowledge helps in finding, all the little cheat code players or players that have been hurt for the last year, and maybe there's not data on them. So I think it helps in some scenarios, but I see where you're going, where it's like, just use the tools.
Right. Like maybe I know my gallery too well, and I need to actually like unknow my gallery to make better lineups.
I'll only be setting like 3 lineups next week.
Just because they're the best?
Yeah, just make the best ones.
Maybe.
And then I'll get a DNP, and then I'll just like flip the table, and I'll go back to the old way.
Do you want subs?
I don't want subs.
Why not? Why don't you want subs?
I just think it would be bad for the game.
Okay.
I think it would be good for my performances to an extent, because I have depth, but what I don't have is the elite depth of certain guys. Like, you go look at surface to air missiles gallery, and he has elite players that do not play. Like, he does not use in lineups. And it's like, that's what I'm up against. And then I just think it creates too many weird conundrums where, like, Surface is going to be like rooting for his guy that didn't start to just not play at all, so that Depay can come on and, score a goal. And I don't know. I don't like it. I think it's bad.
I think that's fair though. Like, you don't want people hoping their players don't play.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you create a situation where, you don't want DNPs, and then you do want DNPs. So the guy comes on.
Right.
Like, don't give me a DNP, but if you're going to give me a DNP, give me a DNP, not a sub.
Not a sub, right? Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, that particularly like would happen if your sub plays first. Now you're like flying to Belgium and hoping that you can keep your starter out of the game. I don't think people would do that, for the record. But yeah, I think the rolling lock thing that a lot of people aren't considering also is that you're basically forced to start all of your Friday and early Saturday players and then just hope that they start. Like, do you prioritize guys who are definitely starting, or do you wait and hope, if
So
Bayern
now I got
plays
to look
Sunday,
at start times.
do you wait on Sunday if Kimmich and Goretzka are there?
Shit. That's crazy to think about. So you'd be spending a lot of time on when games actually start, and I guess there would be optimizations that go with that. So I might put all of my Sunday night guys in the same lineup, or I guess, I don't know. So that, I don't know. And then save a couple of Sunday night starters so that I can swap them. Oh,
exactly.
Man.
I mean, that's exactly how it works in DFS. Like, you're basically saving spots. It doesn't matter. You're saving a salary range, and you're like, all right, if I have to make up ground, I go with this guy. And if I'm set, then I just need my 45 from Michael Bradley, then I can put him in, and I'm good.
Seems to me like the richer the player, the better the player, because they can buy all the options. Not to say that they can't like do that now, but now it's one and done. You make a mistake and you're not correcting it until next game week.
Yeah, I think ultimately the reason why the people who want DNPs, a DNP fix, is because they've just spent so much money and they want to recognize some ROI from that investment. That's all. Which is like, that's fair. I get it. Like, I don't want to buy a guy and then have him not play. And basically my lineup is dead. And I spent thousands of dollars on a dead lineup.
Yeah.
The benefit is that I can just wait 3 more days and try again.
Quinny wants to know, how often have you won in so rare at a league because of your bench?
I had 3 defender DMPs last week. So
you didn't win that.
I lost 0. It was the worst. Like, I just 3 red zeros. I think I probably had one come off the bench.
Out of curiosity, do you remember who they were?
One was it was Osvaldo Alanis from San Jose. Maybe
were they all 3 totally unexpected, or did you make mistakes?
That's a good question. I will say, obviously, it was not because of me. I mean, please. I don't even know if I can. Oh, here we go.
What's funny is I think I get more upset over DNPs where I made the mistake, as opposed to I should be upset when it's just like, that was out of my control. I'm so mad, But when it's a mistake that I made, that's when I'm the most upset, because it's like, dude, I didn't do the work. I skipped over that lineup, or I skipped over that player. I didn't dig. He was suspended. It was obvious. Like, be better.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Like, I think, yeah, it's obviously the people who did the research and are, still get them. Looking at my lineup here, it was Big Dave Boltheis, Zuhair Fidal, who I believe I told you I thought would sit, and I'm pretty sure I didn't play him in SO5. Yeah. But I do like my Sorare data lineups.
You 100% told me he was not starting.
Yeah. So I played him on there and Alanis. Yeah. And I think I do these lineups first. Like, I probably did this lineup on Tuesday.
So it was Big Dave, Alanis, and who else?
Fidal from Sporting.
So that's 3 tough leagues. MLS, Asia, and the Portuguese league is actually, I think, one of the hardest leagues to get lineups right in.
I didn't get that one right.
I don't have a ton of news for the Portuguese league. Like, I've got a few places I'll go and check, but I'm not confident in any of them.
I think the benefit, at least for the players that I have, so it's obviously a pretty selfish response, but like, I pretty much only have players from Sporting, Porto. I don't even think I have anybody from Benfica, but it's like, if you're going to get news, you're going to get them from one of those 3 teams. So.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, they don't have any other teams, right? Covered?
No, they don't.
Maybe soon, though. I mean, Nicholas is hanging out over there in Lisbon, so.
Well, he dropped the
signing teams and leagues up.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it'll be fun. Challenger definitely needs more teams, so including the non-elite ones,
right?
From Portugal.
For sure. Yeah, I'll get my Boa Vista stack going.
Right.
Reggie Cannon, and I don't know anybody else on the team.
Yeah, that was about it. I like how Quinny's saying MLS clubs do tend to work in patterns that you need to decipher. I've never seen a pattern. Like, I think it's just completely.
So what he said there, though, is 100% right. There are players that will not play on certain surface types. We had the university I work at. We had hosted a MLS Cup game 2 years ago, and it was Chicago Fire were in town. And Schweinsteiger was playing with the Fire at the time. And I was really excited. I was like, oh, that guy I've seen on TV, I'm going to go to the game and, get to yell at him and call him names or whatever. And he didn't even make the trip because we have a surface that just turf field that he had written into his contract that he would not play on. I think it's a common thing for those European players that come over here and are older. I think pretty common.
Zlatan, I think, did that. I remember there was talk. He may have ended up playing, but it was like a playoff game in Seattle. And I don't think he'd ever played on turf before, at least in MLS. And there was all this talk of whether he was going to play.
I wonder if it's probably an option, because like if it's a big playoff game or super important game, they're probably going to play in it. But like the game that I was talking about was that Open Cup, the whatever
US
that
Open
is.
Cup.
There's no way he was going to play in that,
Probably not even on grass.
Right. Not making that trip.
Bastian never got to see beautiful St. Louis, I guess. Huh?
Guess not.
But yeah, I just feel like the easiest way to do it is probably to be too safe, and that like if there's any doubt somebody doesn't play, you just don't play them. But there are people who have galleries that you can't do that.
Right.
And I mean, I think most people have galleries where you can't necessarily do that. I would argue that I do have a gallery where I could do that, and yet here I am playing Alphonso Davies today. But I don't know. I just the easiest thing to do is basically to be extra conservative about it. And if there's any doubt, you just don't play them. That doesn't get you out of all DNPs, but it takes you out of more than you would get normally.
Yeah, and to speak to that a little bit, I mean, if it means that you're consolidating down a lineup or something, then certainly you should do that and just like improve your other. Like if you're a type of player that runs 3 lineups and you have 2 good lineups and then your third one is questionable, and maybe you just have 1 questionable player in there. I don't know. Maybe you pull that player out or pull the good players out of that lineup, improve your other 2 teams if you can, and then just not run that third lineup. Easy for me to say because I'm going to try to get that third lineup in anyways. And like, I'll go buy a player on the market, pay more than the secondary market. I did it last night. Didn't even check, just put another bid on the guy. And sure enough, looked on the secondary market. I could have paid like 0.002 less or something. And it's just like, I always make fun of those people. I'm like laughing at them.
You do.
You paid more than the secondary market. And then I did it. I've done it like twice now more than that, like 2 or 3 times now since Limited's come out, because those auctions come so fast. You're like, do I have time to check so edit? No, I don't. And then you put the bid in and then you realize that you paid more.
You should just start on Sorare data.
Interesting.
And then you can just flip over.
Are the times like perfectly in sync between the 2? Yeah. Maybe I should.
Well, they both pull from the blockchain directly, I believe. So it's like there shouldn't be any delay because they're not relying on the Sorare API. But I don't know. But yes, that's what you should do. I also bought a card yesterday to get a lineup in, though. And then I won one of a guy that I was thinking of buying. And I was like, man, if I had gotten this before the game week started, I could have just played it and not have to buy this other card.
Yeah. I think Quinny's bringing up some good points just in regards to patterns in general. You got to just, if you do have a player that rotates, try to figure out whatever that pattern is. Somebody mentioned Andy Nahar, and I think that he had a turf. I thought he had something in his contract where he couldn't play on turf, or that was what people thought for a while. There was a lot of speculation about that. Also with like midweek stuff, like if a guy's played like 4 games in a row, or if it's Europa League, I've got players in my gallery that I just have pegged for, okay, he's never going to play in Europa League.
Yeah.
Don't even bother trying to get him in a midweek fixture because he's not playing.
Or you always play Vlasic because he's going to play this.
Right. I started him this week in the that weekly where it's like the 40 points or less.
Ooh.
Because Vlasic is, I feel like he could score this week up against. Yeah. They play Genk, I think.
Yes.
On the road, not great, but I don't know. That's like the guy that you want in that lineup. There's some upside there. I might even have captained him.
I mean, Genk hasn't had a clean sheet since like 1395, so I think you're fine.
Yeah, I don't think Van de Voort's given up less than 3 goals in, I don't know, 10 games.
He only gave up 2 last weekend. Only 2.
Okay.
I don't know why anybody
would take it all back. Guy. Yeah, you just bought him, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Did you get the cool one where he's like staring off? And
no, I'm so like, I was so angry about it for like a number of reasons. But basically, I bought him just before the deadline because I was selling a car. I sold to Justin Bigelow and I was like, oh, you have to replace, like my plan was to sell him to get Van de Voort. Like, so the plan worked. But by the time that I went to like buy the Vandevort, the like cool cards were gone. And I was like,
Yeah.
And I was like, I should get the new one anyway because the XP is there. But I think at some point I'm going to try to downgrade because I like those other ones much better.
Now, not to go back to our conversation from last week, but are you going to buy Jehan Lukami and Carlos Cuesta or whatever? You're not going to run the gang stack?
No, I don't know when they play. I was talking to somebody yesterday who has a pretty good Mark McKenzie card, and he was like, "It feels worthless because I just never know when he's going to play."
Well, I know when Mark McKenzie's going to play. Never. He never.
Not
plays.
never. That's the problem.
Yeah.
He does sporadically play, which is why you can't buy Lukumi or whoever the other guy was.
Cuesta. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't trust him.
Has McKenzie played enough to disrupt them? I feel like he just never plays. Like I was looking because I have his card and I just like it popped up the other day because it was like a midweek and I was trying to set lineups and I was trying to like fill something in. I was like, oh, I can't use him. He's never going to play.
He started 4 games ago.
Okay.
He started 47%, or actually he's played in 47% of the last 15.
What's wild is look at his scores. They're pretty well, except for the game. Oh, that was the U.S. game against Panama.
Right.
But I mean, like when he plays for Genk, he plays pretty dang good.
He's a classic, like when he plays, he's good guy that you just can't ever play.
I guess he's just a hold him, and then I guess will he be U23 next year? It looks like it. He's 22. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe next year he gets like a full-time starting job, and then you have a pretty awesome U23 defender for a year.
Yeah. Quinny said no one will have him in the special weekly, which is funny because I almost played him. Like I was like this close to playing him in the special weekly, but I didn't really have like a great team to play there, obviously, because they're all sub 40. But ended up putting him in an absurd lineup that won't do anything anyway. But what were we talking about before that? McKenzie and something else. But no, I'm not buying rotated center backs. Like guys who play a lot are very different than guys who play all the time.
Yeah.
That's all. Like every week I'd be looking for somebody else. So I just shouldn't buy that guy at all. I should just get the good timber. But he's too expensive. Somebody said they were twins, by the way, in chat earlier.
Oh, okay. There you go.
They are twins.
Changing topics, sir. Have announced 2 new teams to come tomorrow. No way. What do you want about their Portuguese?
Boa Vista, come on down.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking for the tweet right now. See if there's any nice hints in there. Oh, sorry, when I pulled up their Twitter, I saw the Hans Van Aken video. What did you think about that?
I thought it was great. I loved it. I think if I had no idea who he was, I would think it was a little weird. But yeah, it was great. It's exactly what they should be doing.
That was like that good like nod to the community. Like, yeah, we got Hans. We got Hans now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like if you're growing
on his MacBook Air or whatever he's got there, just chilling.
So there were 2 things that I noticed about this video or thought about this video. One was if you are brand new to So Rare and you saw everybody going this crazy about this thing, I think you'd be like, who is this guy? And the other is he pronounced his name Van Aken, which is I think how I've been pronouncing it. And some people were trying to tell me I was wrong. And so I felt better about that. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved it. I thought everything about it was awesome. It's cool that he's, I guess, actually setting lineups. Although I did notice the lineup that he sets in the video was, I think we talked about it in chat, but it was like his lineup from last week. And then they're doing the guess the score thing. Guess the total score of Van Aken's team in game week 215. Do people think that they're guessing the team that he has set in the video, or do people think that they're guessing the score of the team that he actually set in game week 215? Because if you look at game week 215, he's got 2 lineups, and they're both totally different than the one he set here.
Tricky one. I don't know.
Oh, we got a little bit of controversy. I don't know. I thought that was funny.
The the CDK pronunciation, which I could never replicate.
Was it not de Ketelaere?
He didn't even say Charles. It was like Charla or something like that.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll have to re-listen.
Amazingly, the de Ketelaere was not the surprising part of it.
Yeah, you would think that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, I think that was a great idea. I like that it's the top 5. That's pretty cool. That feels like a little more attainable. I didn't even see how many people entered, but.
Well, you only have to have 2 JPL players, and you can use limiteds, I believe. So yeah. I think that it's going to be just a total crapshoot, wide open. I mean, I'm going to submit my best possible lineup, I think, there. Just, for the fun of it. But that also means I'm going to cheat a little bit and use limiteds, because why wouldn't I cheat there and use limiteds if I can?
Sure. I mean, speaking of limiteds, I was showing you earlier that I think he ended up pulling it out, but So Legendary won last week's special, like last game week, with 5 limiteds.
Oh yeah.
You got a tier 1 super rare, which is just like awesome.
That is cool.
Do you want to admit on this podcast you've been trying to get the Vanaken signature card, or no?
Yeah, I'll admit that. There's 2 signature cards I've been trying to get now for quite a bit, and I've been. I would love to show you the screenshots of all of the declined offers that I've gotten from both Timo Werner and Hans. And my tactics were, I'll share my strategy for trying to get these cards. So Hans, I sent him an offer of another Hans Vanaken card, Simon Mignolet, Brandon Michele, or however you pronounce it, Clinton Mata, basically his entire team.
It was an absurd offer. Like anybody should take this offer.
You would think. So I sent him like it was like 9 cards, and even a replacement of his very own Vanaken card. Just mine's not signed. And I sent him that offer and immediately got declined. So I was like, okay, I'll try again. And I think the second time I threw some ETH in, third time I ended up just like adding more players in. All of them got declined. So this past week, I've been trying to get Timo's card. And I was like, all right, he's starting to play. He's starting to dabble. He's buying cards here and there. So the very first offer was just I was going to send him Timo and Havertz. And I sent that over to him, instantly declined. Like within like 15 minutes, he declined it. So I'm like, all right. So then I went and I put Rudiger in there. And I put Armando Broja and Ike Ogbo, who are just Chelsea players on loan.
Chelsea players that he's never played with. Yep.
So, well, they probably played in camp or something. But I was like, hey, I can load up this offer. That one sat there for like 24 hours. I was like, okay, he's seen it. And then he declined it. So these signature cards are a little tougher than I thought to get. And I'm surprised these guys are hanging on so tight. But I'm going to get one of them.
I mean, some of them can be had quite easily.
Yeah, like if Stefan Fry and his paper hands over there just selling his cards for nothing. Or actually, I guess he sold it for 1 ETH, which is quite impressive because he's, well, I won't say how I really feel about Stefan Fry on stream.
It's probably better for the best.
Yeah.
He watches every week.
Didn't he get a second card and he tried to sell that one too or something? They get one every year, I think.
I remember, I think it was Nicholas Storm, maybe, sold his first one and then got another one. And everyone was like, whoa, wait, he gets another one?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they get one every year, which.
I don't know. Maybe when they get the second one, then they'll be more likely to sell that first one or trade that first one. Or even the second one. I'll take the second one as well.
It just seems like an easy thing to get rid of. Like, you obviously have your own like, why do you need your own signature card?
Yeah. And that was my thought. I was like, hey, I'll give them their own card back.
Yeah.
And then they can still captain themselves in their lineups and stuff. So I think that's like, if you want one of their cards, I think that's kind of like, I think that you could get creative, like make a really super creative offer and maybe get them. And that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, we'll get creative here. I'm not just gonna throw them ETH because I don't have the money to just be like, here's 10 grand for your card or whatever. But but I think
that's a dumb use of 10 grand. Although you're giving out 20 grand worth of cards. So maybe
it's like, come on, man. I don't know. I tried. I'm gonna keep trying.
Effort.
I'm gonna get one, and it's not gonna be Stephen Fry.
Right. I mean, there are enough like out there that if you really just wanted somebody's signature card, you can get it. But obviously, you don't want just anybody's.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to have one of those like kind of premium type players cards, or just like Vanaken's not like. I mean, that's not like it's going to be like some big collectible someday, but he's more of just like a cult hero in the community and in the game. And to have his card, I just think would be like kind of the cherry on top of all of it.
I think that's absolutely a collectible.
The Vanaken is?
Yeah, like I think there are enough so rare people where that would absolutely be a collectible.
Yeah.
Like if you got that card, I bet you get offers all the time for it.
You know the best part about the Vanaken card? Is the serial number associated with it.
You have a whole squad for it. You should have sent him that and be like, look, I need the 69 of 100.
Right.
Somebody made a comment. I apologize because I forget who it was, but they were saying how Vandevoort's on the platform. And it was like, boy, it must be nice to just be like gifted a Vandevoort card.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's a good point.
That's imagine like if they got like Mbappe or Haaland, I mean, that's like free money, printing money. They did have an issue with some Italian player that they didn't properly verify them. And I guess they had to change their verification process because I think some guy, was that Scamacca guy?
Yeah.
He that apparently was not him. And they
gave
him the card and he immediately sold it and kept the ETH. I don't know the whole story there. There's like rumors of that, and I think people even came out and said that like they got scammed on that one.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I missed that. That's fun though.
Yeah,
I mean, not
fun stuff.
Just adds to the lore of so rare autograph cards.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any more out there worth going for really. I mean, Griezmann, of course, but there's not a ton of them like that are really like there's a billion MLS ones that if you just wanted one, you could go get one.
Probably.
But there's not a ton of like really sexy auto cards.
It's an interesting market aspect that like, hey, I have this card. It's basically a unique. But it's like, do I really need an autographed John Kempen card?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Does he have one?
Yeah. It's been traded like a few times, I think.
Yeah. I wonder what the average value of that is. I mean, he's a backup goalkeeper with an autographed card. Like,
I think I think it's zero.
Yeah. I
mean, obviously it's not zero because some people are paying for it, but like I can't imagine there's like a big, like, I think you're almost selling like an autographed so rare card. Like it almost doesn't matter who it is. Like there's probably like a price level where it's like, oh, cool, I have an autograph. But then it's like, oh, I have an autograph of somebody you've heard of.
I think you said that perfectly because I think I think there's going to be stuff like that like down the road where it's like, oh, I'm selling my old so rare card. Like it's a 2018 card. Yeah. It's a player that doesn't play anymore, or a player that like is an uncovered league, but it's an old card, so you should want that.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. Like it's basically a so rare collectible. It's not a collectible of that player per se. Are some people thinking that Vandervoort is premium amongst U23 goalkeepers?
If you looked at his scores, and you just bought him. Bought him for the future. He's got 4 years of U23 left, or
it's the most I've ever spent on a card.
Yeah,
like by far.
Which is really wild to think about.
On like a 19-year-old Belgian kid.
Yeah.
Who averages 20 points a game. So rare
things that we do.
Some really silly shit.
But you get 4 years of utility.
Well, I mean, and when you add
That's
up,
why you did it, right?
yeah. When you add up 4 years worth of 25 points each, it's
Exactly.
a lot of points.
Yeah.
Just one clean sheet. That's all I want. Just one. And then like a whole bunch after that, but like give me one, because boy, does it feel like a mistake.
Open those floodgates.
I was told Genk were good. That's why I did it.
Well, they were, and they've just gone on some massive losing streak. I think it's, I don't know, 7 games or something.
7 or something. Yeah. I think they're sitting in 7th too, but I don't know. You know what's nice about Van de Voort though? He always plays.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of DNPs, so true.
There's no Alex Merritt here. This guy's always in there. Although Ospina now always plays, and he's getting 85 points a game.
Yeah, Ospina's crushing it. Larry, my reward video, I knew the 2 people I got today, by the way. What a time to be alive. Oh, that is nice. It is nice to win a player that you know who they are. I won players today, even though I said I wasn't going to talk about what I won today. I won a common Dante Venzier.
Ooh, he's good.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah, he is good. He's
very good.
Plays for Royal Saint whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And then I won a guy named Nicholas Stark.
I always thought that guy was from Game of Thrones.
No.
Nicholas Stark's not from Game of Thrones?
I don't think so.
No.
And he plays for Hertha Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
And his scores don't look all that great, but whatever. And that's a limited.
Yeah. Like I said, I got Haaland, common. Doesn't even show up on Sorare data. And the other Timber.
What are your thoughts on limited prices? That's another hot topic right now. I have to drag this out too much longer, but
yeah, I think there is a tremendous opportunity for people who really know MLS players and those who have been out. And I only say that because I spent $20 today on an Alan Pulido card, and I don't know if I'll ever play it. It was, what is it, 0.006? That felt pretty good for a guy who could score 20 goals next year.
Yeah. We were talking about that last night. I think that it's not just MLS. I think it's any league where the player just has a either below average L5 or they're not playing right now. Like Pulido's a great example. I mean, he could win the MLS Golden Boot. He's that dominant in the MLS. He just doesn't play a lot. And the nice thing is next year, I'll bet he doesn't go on international duty next year because he's just getting to be too old. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe he doesn't go on international duty next year, and that's just more MLS utility where he can just dominate and crush games and hang out with Johnny Russell and crush it together.
I think you have to hope that he does play international matches, though, so that he goes to the World Cup.
He's not going to start for them, though.
No.
I mean, that'll be Raul, but I don't know. Maybe you get something from him. I don't know. I bought another Johnny Russell limited last night. I don't know why. I paid more than I think the secondary market too. Brilliant. Anybody else want any strategy advice or suggestions? I just saw it sitting there and it looked cheap, so I was like, one more bid, and then yeah.
I think the limited prices are definitely down from like a week or two ago, and I don't know what caused it. If it's an increase in supply, I mean, we're in like the low hundreds now. Like not like we're in the low like 120s or so for a lot of cards. I don't know what the highest one is. This Pulido card I bought was 130 of 1,000. So we're in that range. I mean, we're a long way from where they'll finish, and presumably we get to 1,000 MLS cards by March-ish. So,
that's the one thing that is going to be weird. If they keep printing these MLS cards, they're going to be printing a lot of MLS cards during times where they're not playing at all, and there's going to be very little desire and demand to buy them. So, I mean, we know what the prices are going to do in that time frame if they keep selling them. If they hold them back, they could protect the prices a little bit on them and But I don't know. I don't know that they will hold them back.
I don't think there's enough time in the day to get all of them out if they stop and like start up again in January.
Yeah.
I think what we're going to see though is a much bigger gap between limited cards and rare cards of MLS players, because they've minted a ton of they have minted well more than half of and sometimes 3/4 of the rare MLS cards for this season. And obviously they're, like 13% into the limiteds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think because there's just there's going to be so much more supply of limiteds that people who use like rare cards to figure out if a limited card price is good.
Yeah.
It's going to be very different in 2 months. I hope so I can sell all my rare MLS cards. But no, they don't stop printing cards after a season is done.
To be fair, we don't that's for sure true, but we don't know what the exact rule is, or if they even have a rule on when they're going to stop printing cards or whatever. Like somebody said that they thought it was once the new season starts or something, that they won't keep printing them, but I think they've proven that wrong. I don't know. They need a rule that's transparent and just like across the board. This is what we're going to do. Unfortunately, I just don't think that they have that forecasted out on like when they're going to get the new cards. I don't know when they're going to have the pictures taken.
Yeah.
So I think that they like to kind of play fast with the rules. So they don't really have a rule set because they don't have it forecasted out.
Yeah, I don't think they have to tell us. I think we know that.
I mean, as long as they don't make more than 100 rares and more than 1,000 limiteds, I mean, that's the rule that is most important.
Do you think anyone gets to 1,000? Sure.
I'm
we obviously have no idea, but like, I guess the European season's much longer, but like MLS was almost done. So I feel like there's no way that they make it to 600 or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
If they make it to 1,000, these things are going to be like $5 each.
You're talking about this year, whether we get to 1,000. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I guess it just really comes down to demand, and if they can keep pumping these things out and awarding more prizes and all that. Maybe that's what we will talk about next week, prizes.
I won't do it.
We did DNPs this week. What did we do last week?
It was so long ago, I don't even remember. There's two. Yeah, I don't.
If you don't remember last week, then HG's working you way too hard.
No, I just keep getting blown away by what's coming from So Rare Data soon.
Oh, do you want to give a little before we end our thing today? Do you want to give a little sneak peek of some of the things coming? Can you do that?
I think enough people have seen like the tweets of the app, but it's just really cool. That's all. Like, this is my game week here so far. Like, those are my lineups.
Yeah.
Look at that, Alphonso Davies, never a doubt.
How many points did he score?
76.
Oh.
Well, he scored 71.4, but with my little XP here in 65 minutes. See, I knew he wasn't going to play the whole match, but I played him anyway.
Man.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool, and we'll have to have HG on when the app is out so we can talk about it. But,
for sure.
All right. Yeah. So this has been the latest episode of the So Rare Andrews podcast, brought to you by RotoWire and sponsored by So Rare. We'll be back next week when we'll have another topic, and we'll try to remember what we talked about tonight, although it probably doesn't matter at that point. But if you guys have any topics you would like us to cover, not about rewards, then feel free to reach out to us. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew M. Laird. You can find Andy at ABlack86, also available in the So Rare Discord under those names as well. So feel free to check us out. Andy, I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. See you.
Yes. Yeah.
WinBet Sportsbook again?
Yeah, man. Want to get in on these bets with me?
Okay, fine. Just signed up. Yes.
See? WinBet. Told you. Sign up at winbet.com today using promo code BlueWire to get up to $1,000 toward a risk-free sports bet. That's WYNN bet and promo code BlueWire. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at winbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WinBet is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.